Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a what's for dinner. I'm calling it a summer what's for dinner just because these are fast, easy to throw together when you're rushing around or when it's so hot outside you don't want to heat up your full kitchen, like hours and hours making a meal. These make it so easy. There's 5 recipes, most of which are done in 20 minutes or less, and they are family friendly, budget friendly, just delicious. If you guys enjoy this one, thumbs up, subscribe, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started and share them with you guys. Tonight's dinner is so easy and it is delicious. My entire family eats it. It's kind of like a beef fried rice, but teriyaki style. It's so good, trust me on that. You need frozen peas, sesame seeds, 3 eggs. You're going to need the whole white and the green part of some green onions. I use about 2 big pieces. Some butter, I think it's 2 tablespoons, but I'll check when we get to that part. Toasted sesame oil, a thing of teriyaki sauce, and I like this one from Aldi. It's just really, really good. A little bit of brown sugar, salt, pepper, garlic powder, ginger, beef, and then of course rice, but that's in my cooker. I'll show you in a second. In here, I've got rice cooking. You need about 4 to 5 cups of already cooked white rice for this recipe. I've got about 8 in here because I'm gonna use it for another recipe later on, but this is where my rice is. It's in there. First things first, get a skillet. I like my really big one just because it's more surface area to cook on, so it makes it go just a little bit faster, and you're gonna turn it on to about medium-high heat. 1 tablespoon of butter in the pan and then another 2 tablespoons later. Once your butter melts in there, have your eggs pre-beaten in a bowl and put them in there in a single layer and just leave them alone for a minute. You're going to salt and pepper the eggs to taste, but leave them alone because the recipe wants it to cook in just 1 sheet. My rice cooker has problems. Does anybody else's do this? Like literally almost boil out every time it cooks. Now, once it's all the way cooked like that, no more jiggling, and you can just move it around. Keep it in 1 big sheet onto the cutting board. Set the egg aside. We're gonna worry about that in a few minutes, but use this exact same pan. Put just the tiniest little bit of oil in there because your beef will make oil of its own. And then we're gonna start the beef part. Add your beef to the pan and go ahead and break it up a little bit. Once you get that broken up, when you cut your green onions, you've got the dark green, the light green, and the white. You're gonna wanna save about 2 tablespoons of this for the top afterwards, and all the rest of that is going in here with the meat. Salt and pepper this to taste. I don't measure, but if I'm going off of a good measurement for you guys, garlic powder, 1 teaspoon, more or less to taste. I end up going about 1.5 teaspoons in our house, but I just kind of put it in my hand like that. Ginger, the original recipe says 1/2 teaspoon. That's not enough in our house. I end up going about a full teaspoon, but again, you do you on this. So I end up doing about like that. For the sauce part, while the meat's cooking back there, 2/3 of a cup of your teriyaki sauce, whichever kind you're using. There's 1, there's 2. 1.5 teaspoons of sesame oil. And then 1.5 teaspoons of packed brown sugar. And make sure you like really pack it in there. Go ahead and mix that up really, really well. Break up the sugar. Once the meat's completely cooked, I put about half of this in ahead of time. Then in goes the rice. 1, 2, 3, 4 cups. All right, back to the egg. It's more than cool enough now to handle. And it wants you to roll it up like a sheet, and then just cut it into really thin little egg strips. 1 cup of the frozen peas. Mix them in really, really well. The rest of the sauce can go on. Let this cook for about 5 minutes just to heat up those peas before you put the eggs in. This is 2 more tablespoons of butter. Just wedge it in there and let it melt. Add your eggs back in. Mix it up really good. Now obviously if you want smaller pieces of egg, cut them smaller. However you choose to cut them, cut them. This was just how the original recipe I took this from did it. So I've been doing it that way, but cut them the way you want to cut them. Okay. One of my neighbors is doing their lawn. I'm sorry. Remove it from the heat. Take the green onions from earlier, sprinkle them all over the top. Take your sesame seeds, black sesame seeds, toasted, normal out of the jar, whatever you want to do. Just put them over the top. And dinner is done. Just look at it. It is beautiful, delicious. This came together in about 20 minutes. It's just fantastic, such an easy weeknight dinner. You can, if you want this a little more saucy, you can either go ahead and add some soy sauce on top of this or just make additional of the sauce that we put on it. But either way, so good, and everyone in my family loves it, including the kids. Tonight's dinner is a Mexican meatball, and I'm serving it with some fajita veggies, but I'll discuss that in a minute. I am doubling for the size of my family. I'm gonna tell you what you need for one round. Mine is doubled. So you're gonna need 1 pound of ground beef, 2 eggs, half a cup of breadcrumbs, 1/4 cup of fresh cilantro you're gonna slice up, between 10 and 12 ounces of red enchilada sauce. I've got the bigger one, obviously, so just ignore that. 2 to 3 teaspoons of the garlic. Ignore my dog for a second. A packet of taco seasoning, because you need about 5 teaspoons of this. That's why I've got 2. Salt and pepper to taste. You're going to do about a teaspoon of the minced onion, more or less to your taste. But this is what you're gonna make your meatballs with, and I'm gonna show you how. And then you're gonna serve it over just some cooked rice. And then that's not, you know, good enough for me. So I wanted some kind of side item. So I'm going to saute some peppers and onions together with the same spice palette. Step 1, 350 on your oven. Gwen is dying to help, so she's here for a minute. Put your meat in a bowl, put your eggs in there, pre-beat them a little bit in the bowl. Go ahead. Thank you, Gwen. Half a cup of breadcrumbs. I don't really measure, I just put them in the palm of my hand. Go ahead, Bree. I need to.
No, me.
Okay, guys. For one batch, you want 1/4 cup of the red sauce to go in. I'm doing half a cup because, again, I'm doubling.
No.
All the fresh cilantro. No, that's a knife. Back your hands up. Minced onion, 2 tablespoons. Taco seasoning, each one says 5 teaspoons. And if I'm gonna keep digging, 1 bag looks like about almost 5, but that's 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's like maybe 1/4 bag left. So since I'm doubling, I'm just going for it. And then it says 2 to 3 teaspoons of minced garlic. That ain't gonna cut it for us, but I'm just gonna kind of go about like 5 of them since I'm doubling. Salt and pepper to taste. Get in there and break it apart. And hang on, baby. And then you're gonna mix it up, but don't overly mix it because then they're just gonna be really, really tough. So mix it just until it's fully incorporated, but then stop. Prep your baking dish. Just spray it down with some cooking spray. To make life easy on yourself and to make them all consistent, you could just do this with a cookie scoop. Just like, really like get it down in there, clean up the edges. And then you have a meatball ready to go. And do that until you run out of meat. Just kind of push it together right at the end. And there's your meatball. The hardest part of dinner is done, just getting it mixed up and balled up, because now all you gotta do is take the rest of your enchilada sauce and drizzle it evenly over the top of all the meatballs. Once they're all coated, cover the pan in aluminum foil. Pop this in the oven, 350 degrees, 30 minutes, then take the foil off and bake it for another 15. Since there's bell peppers in my side item tonight, I've been asked how I cut these, and I'm just gonna show you the real fast way that I cut them. So I basically cut the top off with the stem and that piece. I cut the bottom part off. Oh, the bottom might need a little more on this one because it's a weird pepper. And then I just come at it, like when it's got top and bottom off. I come at the side and I just cut it open around like that. And the core and all the ribs come out in a circle, just like that. And you could cut the ribs in here even further if you want to, but it just makes it really easy if you want to do strips, you want to dice, whatever you want to do. It just makes it really easy. No muss, no fuss with the seeds. And all this stuff up here you can still eat, just obviously don't eat the stem. First 30 minutes are up. Take the foil off and put them for at least another 15 or until they reach 170, yeah. I'm heating up some leftover rice. That's for the meatballs to be served on. And then in this pan, I'm going to do my vegetables. I'm gonna show you how to do those. 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil, depending on how many vegetables you're doing. As soon as your oil is hot, throw in your peppers and your onions at the same time. Cook these down until they're as soft as you like them. They're usually about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how you like that. When the vegetables are about halfway cooked, that's when I'll go ahead and put in my garlic. It's about 1 big, spoonful. I'll put that in. It gives it less of a chance to burn. Okay, they're really loud while they're cooking, but once the onions start to get a little translucent, this is when I will also season a teaspoon of the garlic powder and a teaspoon of the cumin, more or less to taste, obviously, on your own part in your house, but those are what I'm using. My side item vegetables are done. They are just seasoned, salt and pepper at the end, and keep them going until they are your level of doneness. My rice is ready to go. It's just buttered, salt and peppered, and that's how I woke that up. And those are still in there. Mine have been about 30 minutes with the foil on and about 30 minutes off, but they are bigger, and it is a doubled recipe, so mine is gonna take longer than yours. So do the 30 minutes and then the 15 and check them if you're doing 1 round. Here it is all plated up. Put a little extra cilantro and the sauce over it, however many meatballs you want. I put extra sauce over my rice and then just the fajita vegetables on the side, but there is another very easy and delicious one for you guys. Also, you could turn this into like a Mexican meatloaf if you wanted to, instead of doing like the meatballs. If you don't want to do that and that's too much work, you could do the same recipe but in a meatloaf form. Tonight's dinner is super fast and easy. It is egg roll in a bowl. You can use any ground meat you want, pork, beef, turkey. We're doing turkey tonight because I did the beef rice the other night. Garlic, sesame oil, and egg. Soy sauce, I always do reduced sodium. Ground ginger, green onions, sriracha if you want the heat or completely leave that out. And then some of the classic coleslaw mix. Grab your skillet, some olive oil, put just a decent drizzle in there, and crank it up to about medium-high heat. If you're using like an 80-20 beef, you can skip the oil altogether, or like a fattier pork, you can skip that. If you're doing ground turkey, definitely do not skip on the oil though, because it will stick to your pan. Put your meat in there, break it up if you have one of these. If not, just break it up really well into small pieces, and while it's browning, season it. Turkey is a very, very bland meat, so you want to season this as you go. So definitely at this point, salt and pepper. I want to bump up some of the flavors that are going to be in this, so at this point I will put a little bit of ground ginger in here as well. Nothing too crazy though, just, a little shake like that. Once it's all browned, drain any fat off it if you need to, and then you're going to add a teaspoon of garlic. I'm going more than that because my jar's got about 1.5 before it's empty, so I'm just gonna finish the jar, but 1.5 teaspoons of garlic goes in for about 30 seconds. About 30 seconds after you put the garlic in, add your bag of your coleslaw mix. Recipe calls for 1/4 cup of soy. I'm gonna see how I feel about that. It's probably gonna be stepped up. The ground ginger, 1 teaspoon or more or less to your taste. Let this cook down and wilt until the cabbage is done and tender to your liking. Once it's wilted down, make a well in the middle of your pan. Basically just means move everything out of the middle of your pan. Take an egg, crack it in the middle, and scramble it right in the middle of your pan. Once the egg is completely cooked all the way through, then you can go ahead and mix it all in with everything else. If you want heat, this is when you're gonna add your sriracha, 1 to 2 teaspoons. I'm not doing that. They can put it on the top of theirs individually. The last thing before you pull it off the heat, just give it a little drizzle of some sesame oil. and mix that in. Here's what it looks like when you pull it off the heat. At this point, you can either put the sriracha over the whole top and the green onions if your family will enjoy that. With my family, we don't do heat too well, just my husband and my oldest son, so we will let them add that on the top of their own. These I'm gonna put over the entire thing and a little bit on each individual bowl. Extra soy if needed. This one would also make a really good, like a meal prep thing for lunches for someone, or you can turn these into lettuce wraps if you want to get a little more veggie in there. That would be really good with this too. There's one bowled up. This one belongs to my son, so you can see the sriracha in there, the extra green onions. He will probably hit it with a little soy sauce, but that is your egg roll in a bowl. Dinner time again. Tonight is a sausage rice thing. It's like a cheesy sausage and rice. Found on Pinterest, sounds really good. So you're gonna need 2 tablespoons butter, can of cream of chicken, 3/4 of a cup of milk, any kind you really wanna use. I don't think I would do like oat or almond for this though, just to be honest. A 1/2 cup of sour cream, 1/2 cup of diced up onion, 2.5 cups of chicken broth, but I use reduced, but that's on you. Some uncooked rice, white rice preferably. 2 bell peppers, you can do whatever color you want. The original recipe said a red and a green. I'm not dealing with that, I'm just buying all green. 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese, and then, what is this? How many? 13 ounces. I think the thing said 11 ounces. I don't know, whatever sausage you want to use. We're just using some turkey smoked sausage, but use kielbasa, whatever floats your boat on that one. You're also supposed to have minced garlic, and I ran out in the last recipe, and I forgot to go buy some, so I'm using garlic powder to substitute. And if you want any heat in this, you could put a dash of this in it. Tonight's recipe starts in a big giant pot over medium to medium high heat, and you're going to drizzle this with some olive oil. Cut your sausage up into little coins, just little discs. I mean, you can do half moons if you want to as well, and that'll just make them disperse even further, because I also do mine pretty thin, so that way there's more of them in the mixture. Once your oil heats up, go ahead and put them in. They're already cooked, so the only thing you're going here for is color to brown them up on both sides. Once you get some color on it, you're going to transfer all this out of the pot, and then you're gonna continue cooking in here with the rest of this. You want all those little good bits in there. You're gonna put 2 tablespoons of butter, and then all of your onion, and then cook the onions until they're translucent and softened. I know it can be really hard to see on camera, but if you take a spatula while you're cooking your onions and you scrape across the bottom, you're gonna pick up all of that sausage goodness, and it's gonna cook into your onions as well. This is when it wants you to add the fresh garlic. I don't have that, so I'm going to babysit it and just put some of this in there to give it good garlic flavor for all of like 30 seconds. Okay, now it wants 2.5 cups of chicken broth. And I'm gonna make sure to use the same thing I measure it with to measure the rice with, just so it's accurate. Drag the spatula and really get the rest of all that off of the bottom and bring this up to a boil. Get it up to a rolling boil, and then 1.5 cups of the uncooked rice. And try and, like I said earlier, to use the same thing you measured the broth with so that they're even. Get this back up to a boil, put a lid on it as tight as you can, and cook it for 10 minutes. Turn this down to simmer and let it simmer for 10 minutes. I forgot to say that, but once it comes back up to a boil, put your lid on and turn it down and cook it for 10 minutes. When your 10-minute timer goes off, don't stir that. Just put your peppers in there right on the top of it and close your lid, and based on the package of the rice that you had, cook this for another 5 to 10 minutes. Just put the lid back on, another 5 to 10 minutes. When that 5 or 10 minutes, however long you're putting it on for, stops, turn it off and just let it sit here for another 10 minutes. Don't touch it, don't stir it, nothing, just let it sit there for 10 minutes. Once the 10 minutes is off, put it back on low, and then in here, 3/4 of a cup of milk, 1/2 cup of sour cream, a whole can of the cream of chicken. And the original recipe says 1 cup of shredded cheese. I will do the 1 cup, but then see how I feel. Knowing me, I will add more. And then stir all this together to combine. This is also the point, if you want some heat, you add the crushed red pepper flakes. I don't think I'm gonna do it for my house, but if you want heat, this is when you would add that. Taste it as you're going before you put the meat back in, and if you need salt and pepper, do it, because I know this one definitely does. I just tried it, so. Once your cheese is melted, that's when you go ahead and add your sausage back in. Let it cook for just a few minutes to heat that sausage back up, and this is done. And yes, that's my stitch trivet. What it looks like in this dark pot. But there it is. It's a lot easier to see it in the white bowl. So I just put it in the white bowl for a second for you guys to be able to see all the different parts and how it looks. So far, the general consensus is it's okay. I think it's good. Tristan doesn't like it. Aiden doesn't like it, but they also don't like the texture. The rice did not get cooked as far as I normally cook rice in our house. So I think that's what's wrong with them, is they don't like the texture of the rice in this. But other than that, my husband said it needs a little more salt and pepper, and it's delicious. So this one is not the favorite of the week, but it is still good. The last dinner I'm putting together for this one are kind of like bacon cheeseburger bowls. It's almost like a salad, pretty much. But I'm doubling, so you only need half of what I'm doing. But you need ground beef, which I'll be adding steak seasoning, which was not in the original recipe. Salt, pepper, garlic powder, not even saying that because everybody picks on how everybody says that. So that. Yellow mustard, mayo, ketchup, or fry sauce if you have it. I don't, so I have to make it out of mixing those two. Whatever kind of toppings you typically put on your burger. So lettuce, tomato, red onion. We have some bacon, some more cheese, and I have some relish for the pickles, just because they'll already be cut up for me that way. A few things, you don't have to use yellow mustard. You can use Dijon. I don't have any, so we're gonna be using the yellow mustard on that. You can use real garlic if you want to, but this does call for the garlic powder. And then again, any toppings you would normally put on your burger, you can even put cut up avocados or anything like that in with this as well. We're just not doing it. Step one, get a large pan and heat it up to about medium high. You saw the oven counting down because I have tater tots in there for my kids because they have to have some kind of French fry with their burger. Meat in and break it up. Mine is doubled, so for one round, it's between a half a teaspoon and a full teaspoon of this. I'm gonna go about a teaspoon and a half in here. All right, and then it would be salt and pepper to taste, but since I'm using this and it has both of those in there, I'm gonna go very easy with any of this because I'm gonna mostly rely on the steak seasoning. While the meat's cooking, we can work on the actual salad part. The easiest way to get the core out is to actually hit it on your countertop or your cutting board. And then you can just pull it out, just like that. This way, so you guys can see, I do very thin, just like that. And then I will go through it this way to make them little bite-sized pieces. I'll just go through this way. Once your meat is completely cooked, you're going to drain it and just remove it from the heat. My house got crazy noisy all of a sudden, so I had to voice over for the remainder of this. Once your meat is cooked, take it off the heat, put in half a cup of cheese, 1 teaspoon or more or less your flavoring of the Worcestershire, however you say that word, sauce, and 1 teaspoon of the mustard, whether you're using the yellow or the Dijon. Mix this up really good in the pan and let it sit there and melt completely and just meld together for a minute while you're assembling the rest of the salad over behind you. Your lettuce is already cut at this point. Just do whatever your toppings you're gonna do. Dice up your tomatoes, dice up your red onion. I love this chopper because it gets everything very, very small, and that's just how I prefer it, especially if I'm gonna have raw onion in something. The smaller the piece, the better, just in my opinion. And also, if you can see just the colors, this salad is really beautiful and very appealing on the eyes. Then you're gonna put about another half a cup to cup of shredded cheese in the bowl. If you're gonna use bacon, make sure that the real bacon pieces or bacon you cook yourself, and crumble that up, put it on in there. Take the meat mixture, put it all over the top of this because at this point it's just slightly warm, so it's not gonna wilt your lettuce or anything. To make the homemade fry sauce, you need 1/4 cup of mayo and 1/4 cup of ketchup, and just mix that together. Mine is obviously more than that because, as I said earlier, I'm doubling. Then take that sauce and put it all over the top. I did about half at first, then mixed all of the lettuce and salad together, and then put the remainder of that sauce over the top. Just that way I could make sure I could equally distribute it over this thing and there's not gonna be a big clump of that sauce sitting in the bottom. This was delicious. It was so refreshing. It was very hot that day that we made this. It was almost 100 degrees here in Florida and it was perfect. Of course I made the tater tots for the kids. They appreciated that. I actually took a few of them and crumbled them up in there, as well as dill relish. I love that in there, especially with mustard on my burger. So good. This thing was amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed these recipes. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.